At home to our run of show tonight.
Absolutely. So, hello, everybody. This is my first time joining you, and today we'll have a regular show. You're here for the pre-show at 5:40 Pacific. As per usual, our daily show will start at 6 o'clock Pacific, and then you can come right back to us as soon as the Endure stream ends for the post-show. Eduardo, would you like to take us through the interactive streaming concept?
Of course. So you should be familiar now as we've gone through a week of it, but of course, Silent Hill Essential is a novel way of enjoying horror. It is a socially interactive streaming series where all of you collectively shape and experience its ever-evolving story. You're going to collaborate or compete with others to try to make the choices you want to see, because the thing is, when those decisions end, the choice that all of you have made collectively is canon, and that is the version of the show that everyone is going to see, that goes in the catch-up, that makes our episode. It's a canon story shaped by you at home, the participating audience, every day. And we're going to be fair on this hosted show, probably for the last time, show you the most iconic scene of last week as we walk through the story. The end of Joy is going to play in the background. But Layla, it is time to talk about what a first week this has been.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we did not pull any punches. We threw folks in right into the boiler. I have seen this scene internally so many times, and I still never get over that feeling of like being trapped and just watching Joy get absolutely wrecked by the Entangler. Like that is not an easy death. That is a pretty how do I put this? That's pretty visceral, right? That's not a way you want to go.
No, of course not. And the funny thing is, at that point, the person there with her, Rachel, doesn't really see what's going on. But later on, she does start to see the monsters as we go to her home, and as she flees, with her husband and daughter. Like, it's one of the things with our story in Pennsylvania and in Norway as well, is bit by bit, the characters slowly start to perceive the same delusions.
Right. I mean, Rachel in that first scene, I think she actually does see what's going on, because she does ask, what have you done? And hey, listen, I just want to put this out here. If I were in a crisis, I don't think Rachel Hernandez is the lady I'd want in the room with me. Like, if I'm just putting myself in poor Joy's shoes, like that is not the companion for me. I don't know if you feel the same.
Well, I mean, I would probably not try to go into the situation where I'm trying to join a cult. After all, one of the key things in our story is... Oh, sorry, you have a different name. I know.
We've discussed this. We've discussed this. It is a pyramid-shaped self-improvement group.
So, anyways, I would probably not join many pyramid-shaped self-improvement groups, and a bit less the ones that would lead to my imminent and immediate death. Now, of course, that's, in Pennsylvania, but in Norway, it wasn't quite an active decision that kind of led to the critical death on stage, so to speak, with Ingrid.
Right. That was more, we don't quite know what led to it yet, now do we? We know that some shady circumstances were involved, right? There's a man in a window, there's a syringe that wasn't supposed to be there, there's some dubious motivations, some unclear history in terms of Ingrid's relationship to her husband and her children. So we don't quite know yet, but hey, let me tell you, none of it makes me feel comfortable. I don't like any of it, and those are not people I would want to associate with.
Well, that is actually one of the epic lines from that story, right? Nobody in this town would be unhappy to see one less Johansson, and which is the story we follow in Norway. And actually, one of the things that I'm going to ask our lovely production team to show up is a scene from yesterday, where we're actually going to see Carl at a bar trying to make sense of what is actually going on. Because after all, you were saying we don't quite know what happened. Let's see if Carl can make sense of it in our scene, Leave the Bottle.
Another double?
Just leave me the bottle, Leo.
I can't do that in good conscience, friend. What's happened now?
It's Astrid. She thinks I killed her mother.
How could she think that?
She betrayed me to the police. And now, Haugen's threatening to charge me with murder. Murder, Leo! I just know Haugen won't leave us alone until she's charged me with murder.
Maybe you do need this.
The thing is, I think someone else did it.
Who?
I don't know. There was something on the farm that night.
Have you told Haugen this?
She'd think I was crazy.
Carl, you have to tell the police immediately. If you don't do it, I will. I've got a friend down at the station and...
I don't think I should make more trouble.
Any more than you're already in.
I just wish Ingrid was here. She'd know what to do.
She'd tell you to listen to your friend.
Take it. It's good scotch. It deserves to be savored, not wasted on a wreck like me.
Don't let that Haugen intimidate you. Just tell her the truth, and you'll be fine.
And welcome everybody. If you haven't seen that scene yet, I hope you enjoyed it. Or if you have, I hope you enjoyed rewatching it. Layla, what was a highlight for you from that scene that was kind of a softer undertone?
See, the whole thing about the Johansons, right, is that we are tossed right into the middle of a family tragedy that doesn't seem to be the first. And for the first little bit, we really didn't see them interacting with anybody outside their family. So this was the first time we see kind of a newcomer. And it's interesting, right? Because it seems like maybe this is Carl's only friend. And I find that kind of striking.
I mean, that's the thing. Well, I mean, speaking of, friends, and a horrible segue into the decision. But one of the things is, who's friends with Toby? It's Eric. Now, that's actually the decision that's closing today. Our production team's going to throw that on screen for you, and Layla's actually going to read that for you, let you know what's going to actually play out very soon.
Yeah, I got a little live update. So it is closing today. We have our three choices for Toby are to beg, manipulate, or threaten. And right now, it was more neck and neck earlier. Actually, it seems like beg gang is kind of winning out. So if you're trying to get on that threaten path, if you're trying to get Toby to really use his height and tower over his friend, your time is a coming. It's time to rally, folks, and get your choices heard.
Well, because that's one of the things is these decisions actually play out until the very end. Once the scene plays, it is locked in, but until the moment that scene plays, until you see that on screen, you can change the outcome. So when it is close like this, all of you can gang up if you want to change how things are, especially when the decisions are getting closer and closer between redemption and damnation. And actually, that's something I wanted to talk about. You're going to see this theme throughout our pre-show and our poster. We're going to talk about decisions that were made and redemption. Spoiler: redemption won by a lot in a lot of these scenarios. But it's getting close. Now we have redemption and damnation being neck and neck in a ton of these decisions.
That's true. I find it very interesting that our dear audience isn't as interested in suffering, right? Because there is some opportunity there to get a little delicious with the narrative. But if it's going to be redemption versus damnation, I do also love a game of extremes. So I'm curious to see what the audience will pick, and I think that's that's kind of the default refrain. But I genuinely am. I'm excited. It's been a wild ride to watch the numbers kind of go up and down, especially with these recent choices that have been so neck and neck.
No, for sure. And our development team loves seeing how close they are. But to help you at home make those decisions, let's look at our story so far in Pennsylvania. Our production team is going to put that up on screen for you as Layla walks you through what happened in our first week in Pennsylvania.
So we did just watch Joy die. We don't have to go over that. But Joy's brother Toby finds out that she died and then proceeds to see a delusion of his sister in the woods, which is not a great place to see a dead person, I think. And then Rachel, in the meanwhile, begins to see monsters, and her husband Eric take their little daughter Faith to the Foundation building for refuge. Now, Eduardo, you and I have talked about the scene a bunch of times, and I still stand by my point, which is listen, maybe we don't take our children to the pyramid-shaped self-improvement group, but if you're going to take your child somewhere to wait it out, a Pennsylvania brownstone is a pretty good way to go.
No, and that's the thing, right? I mean, it makes sense, right? You're physically threatened, so you go to the building that you believe will physically hold in the demons that and the monsters that live inside of you. Essentially, as you have to fight, I don't know though if how solid an argument that may end up long term, but hey, it makes sense to go after all where there's other people and where you believe at least the windows will hold things. But I for sure that scene where Toby sees Joy's delusion, "Burn it all down" for me is a really iconic line.
Yeah, Girly does not pull any punches, and I respect that. I feel like I've seen a lot of the folks, when it comes to psychological scenes, there's a desire to wax poetic. I really enjoy just kind of cutting to the point and saying, "Burn it all down." Like, yeah, Girly Pop, if you're gonna appear after you die, sure, get to the point. We don't know how much time you have.
And the funny thing for me is the audience is responding, right? We have half the audience that's like, you know what, let's chill a second, let's not have Toby burn everything down. And the other half's like, yeah, let's go, let's see it burn all down. And it really comes down, I love seeing how close that choice is, and you, the audience at home, are really making it close. We love to see it from the development team, but also we hope that you at home are enjoying that drama, as both of you are essentially choosing which outcome to see. But no matter what, we hope you really enjoy that coming out. And with the decisions, you can see when they come out, because you have the amount of time that you have left with it. You won't see the payoff for that tonight, but you will see it quite soon. Now, actually, we have a decision closing today. How are we doing on that, Layla?
What's funny is, even though I have called attention to the fact that it used to be more neck and neck than it is, it seems like we're still sitting at 40-49. So we'll see. Maybe by the time we come back for the post show, things will have wiggled a little bit.
Sure, Noah, for sure. And remember, the decision's closing soon. Once the scene plays, that's the end of the time. The scene is done, the canon is made. But until then, you have time for that decision. I'd say you have a solid 7-ish minutes, a little more, a little less, depending on when that scene's going to play out. But if you wanted to change the outcome, you'll probably have to do it now. That said, we talked a lot about Pennsylvania, and it makes sense. A pretty dramatic opening, but in Norway, things are building up a little more slowly, a little bit more cautiously, so to speak. Our production team's going to throw it up on screen as Layla walks you through our first week in Norway.
Yeah, so again, we've talked a little bit about the matriarch of the Johansson family dying. So Ingrid is gone. She died on screen in front of us. Meanwhile, her daughter Astrid learns that her son Orson bit another child at school. And she finds out that the content of the mysterious syringe that she found in her mother's bedroom, a syringe she was not prescribed, is morphine. Not great. Not a great day.
No. I mean, on days you've lived in your life, that has to be bottom 5 for Astrid. If it's not, you've probably lived a horrible life. Let's be honest here. It's just, but that whole scene was something, right? Because Ingrid died pretty much with Carl present, and the thing was, there was a delay between the discovery from Astrid and Carl, because Astrid starts arguing with her father about her mother's care at a point where, well, she's already kind of kicked the bucket.
Yeah, it's a bit late to check in, I think, Astrid. Maybe we should have been checking in a little bit earlier. I don't know what she's up to in her life. Maybe, who knows, who's to say, work, children, you get busy as an adult. But yeah, listen, as somebody who's had family members that have emergent medical needs, right? I checked in. It's pretty up to date. So it is a little bit odd. And odder still is this, I don't even know how to put this, but if you have even an inkling of a suspicion that your father may have had something to do with your mother's death, whether that be negligence or outright murder, you're a little late to check in there, Astrid.
No, of course. And the problem is you realize too late and we're done. But one of the things that is interesting to me is that kind of parallel between life and death, right? Obviously Ingrid's passed away, but a lot of the plot also centering around Orson. And one of the things for you fans at home that might have missed it is we had an interview with Stefan Bugaj last Friday, who talked about generational family trauma. And one of the things here is somebody has passed away, but Layla, I mean, Astrid has to protect those who are alive, essentially, still.
Yeah, I think that should be probably priority number one. As we say, if you lost someone, they're gone. Time to, got to keep an eye on the folks that are still around. But yeah, it seems like it's not a great time for her son to also be a handful, considering the death of the mother. Also not a great time for him to be, as he did, like barging into the room where the corpse is. Don't know how many funerals you've been to, but as a child, that was not like a fun sight for me. Like, I didn't enjoy seeing dead bodies, especially if I didn't have any context. But hey, speaking of bad days for Astrid, she has had to a couple of times now run through our Endure streams. So let's talk about that, because the audience will be facing that shortly after the scenes play today. So one of our main story characters will enter an eerie room and advance slowly, only to find one of you, an audience member, dead. A ton of crawlers, my least favorite monsters, insects with a human face will appear, and the only escape is to run up a door towards freedom. So you'll have to help the character shake off the crawlers, crawl through barbed wire, which I think is kind of intruding on their bit, and then get out of there. Inputs will appear on screen for you to react to and help the character.
And one of the things here, right, that's important with these Endure streams, scenes, is if a character fails in enough of them, they may not survive future encounters as their hope goes down, and that may actually lead to their permanent death in the story. So if you really like a character and are trying to redeem them, make sure to keep their hope up. These endurance scenes are a big thing that allows you to do that, as well as the mindfulness puzzles. Now, that said, one of the nice parts about being live, and trust me, you're going to see the show live very soon. It's in about 2 minutes. This is one of the best places to earn large amounts of influence points. And also forget whether you succeed or you fail in these endurance scenes, or whether the community does. It becomes a part of the collective story. It's not a judgment on you. It's essentially a way for us to determine what is going to end up happening to these characters.
That's right. And as Eduardo mentioned, we are just a couple minutes away from the show. So would you like to recap us on all we've done here?
Of course. So one of the big things here is we've gone through almost a week of story so far. You've seen a lot of this. Obviously, the mega first day with a ton of scenes, starting with the end of Joy, as you saw the story kind of build up in Pennsylvania very fast and rapidly, as delusions and monsters were abounding in the presence of many of the characters there. On the other side in Norway, the intrigue is building up a little more slowly as the Johansen family is dealing with the death of Ingrid and the aftermath coming from that. Now, all that said, the show is going to start soon. After the show, we will be back, both Layla and myself. But at the end of that post-show, we're actually going to have our director of production, Xiaoling Lai, who has a message from our development team for the community and you, the audience at home. So please do stick around for that. In the meantime, we're about less than a minute away from our show. So it's time for myself, Eduardo, and Layla to sign off, let you enjoy that. We will see you right after. We hope you have an amazing time, and we'll see you soon. Take care for now.